Yo, what's up? Yardfish here, talking about movies and stuff again. And this time I'm going to be talking about a film called In the Tall Grass, which is a Netflix original and it's directed by a guy called Vincenzo Natali, based on a short story by Stephen King and his son, Joe Hill. Uh, yeah, I'm pretty sure the Joe Hill thing is a pen name, and his actual name is probably something else. Probably didn't want to live in his, daddy's shadow or something like that, which is commendable, right? No, I'd seen this movie keep popping up on Netflix every time I headed on there to watch something. Think the algorithm was like, "Hey, yo, guy, we know you like horror and stuff, so check this out." But like most people, when I see something I don't really understand or never heard about before, decided to go Google it, and well, according to Google, or rather Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, the movie sucked. So they said. I'm like a fool. I decided to just say, yeah, all right, I'll just accept that because clearly neither of those websites ever did me wrong before, right? They must mean something. But seeing as I kept seeing it around for so long, I decided, yeah, why not? I might as well just have a look, right? And you know what? It actually turned out to be a pretty pleasant surprise. Though at the same time, I can also kind of understand why a lot of people probably won't like this movie. It's a bit of an unusual beast. I definitely could see why a movie like this probably might not be made for a theatrical release. I don't really see it really dragging in a lot of audiences because I don't think a lot of people find grass very scary. At least I never really did. And after seeing this, I kind of still don't think grass is particularly frightening. But what's important too is that the movie was actually pretty interesting, pretty entertaining. I was never really bored, despite the fact that this was an hour and 40 minutes long, which it didn't really need to be. And that is definitely one of those things that would put people off as well because it is based on a short story and it definitely shows that they stretched a lot of it out in this film. It could have easily been cut down. But anyway, a brief synopsis of the movie though. So there's this chick who happens to be very pregnant, heading down a highway in the middle of nowhere with her overly attached brother, attempting to escape from life and all the problems that come with it and start anew somewhere else in San Diego. However, they're forced to make a stop because, well, being pregnant means vomit, a lot of it, apparently. And she has to go at the side of the road. And it's at this point where I could kind of understand why some people might just stop watching this movie because I really didn't need a close up of that. But yeah, they felt like it was a good idea to really give you a nice lingering shot of the chunky bits. Yeah, thanks, man. I'll really cherish that for as long as I live. But following that, she hears a voice, specifically the voice of a very young child, calling for help amongst the tall grass. And well, it's a bit unusual, sure, but being, I guess, decent people, they decided they just can't really leave a child out there to possibly die of heat stroke. So they head in to look for him, and things get strange. This is a Stephen King short story we're talking about, so yeah, we're not really gonna go any other way. Now, here's the thing though, this movie looks really, really good. Pretty much the only three movies I've ever done on this channel, they all look really good. This one, yeah, it's easily a really beautiful movie. The cinematographer definitely knew what he was doing, even though it's basically set in a field of grass. That's pretty much it. It's a road and a field of grass. That's pretty much all you're going to be seeing throughout this entire movie. And yeah, that's probably going to rub some people the wrong way because fatigue at a certain point does set in for the viewer, and you're kind of like, this is just a lot of grass, dude. A lot of grass. It's really nice looking grass, and the director definitely gets creative with his shots a lot of times. Some really, really fancy stuff in here. Sometimes a bit overly fancy. There are a couple shots that are transitions that are a bit a bit much, but they were cool. I like them. Some people might not. But visually, they do a really good job of convincing you, the viewer, that this field is some sort of living, breathing entity. There are a lot of aerial shots, a lot of night shots that really try to establish this sense of eerie unnaturalness to every shot in the film, and I think it really works nicely, even though there are a couple instances where it becomes obvious that there's some CGI at work, a bit too obvious in some shots, but for the most part, this is a very nice looking movie that unfortunately kind of wears you down with its repetitive imagery after a while. This movie is also really well acted. As I mentioned before, I did check up various, like IMDb websites and whatnot before, and saw that the movie had a negative-ish rating. So I assumed, acting-wise, it was probably going to be pretty bad as well. It was not. It was quite good, quite surprising, in fact. Patrick Wilson is the only actor here that I actually ever really heard of, and he clearly had a lot of fun with this movie. But everybody else who was there was also really good as well. They give very spirited, believable performances without coming across as particularly tacky or cheesy. Even more surprising was the performance by the child actor, which I don't know if it's just me, but it really seems like child actors these days really have their stuff together. Because back in the day, whenever I see like a kid pop up in a movie, I'd be, yeah, okay, time to have pretty much all the emotion just ruined and sucked out of a scene the minute they open their mouth. But for like the last couple of years, that seems to be not really the case, at least not usually. But this kid, Will Jr., none of that stilted acting that I've kind of come to expect from child actors. He has to handle a number of different emotive tones, I guess you can call them, throughout the movie, from creepy child to normal child to happy child, and he pulls it off pretty well. The creepy child in particular is one of those things that it feels like it's kind of one note right now. Just have a dead look in your eyes and sort of murmur something stupid. But that wasn't really the case here. He actually felt like a normal child with something that was just a bit off about him. So good job to that guy. He'll probably grow up to be a pretty good actor or just never amount to anything. Hopefully it's the first though. See, here's the thing about this movie though. It doesn't really give a damn as to whether or not the audience is actually following along or not. It just kind of keeps going, and you might be getting more and more lost as it goes on, because it kind of really dives headfirst into some seriously vague territory, especially coming down to the end. And expositionary dialogue and even inferences are very, very sparse, which is something that I usually like, and I do like it in this case, but I feel like there could have been a few more breadcrumbs added to this particular trail, because they give you very little to work with, especially for a movie as long as this. And that's kind of the second big downside to this film, the one that I believe pretty much everyone could agree on. It is way too long. It is 1 hour and 40 minutes long. It does not need to be anywhere near that length. You could easily shave 30 minutes off of this movie and it'll be just fine. It'll be better, most likely. This is based on a short story, after all, not a 900-page novel or anything like that. So it seems like a leaner runtime would have worked in its favor a lot more than what we got here, where it does sort of feel like they're really trying to pad things out and stretch things out. They're trying to throw a lot of different horror tropes in there to see what sort of sticks, and some of it works, some of it doesn't, and as a result, the movie can occasionally feel pretty repetitive, but it is bolstered by that really strong cast that I mentioned before. And while I'm definitely one of those guys who likes thinking about movies way after I've seen them, especially really ambiguous horror films like these, where you sort of try to piece together exactly what happened from these tiny little scraps of cues and whatnot, it does go a bit too hard on the ambiguity. So while I personally really enjoyed this movie, I can't really say it's the sort of thing I would recommend to somebody else, unless I really highlight these particular issues beforehand. It's like, if you can deal with these things, sure, knock yourself out. You might enjoy it. If not, if the idea of following a bunch of people as they sort of fumble around and flail about, meandering through the bush, as a whole lot of not much happens for about an hour and 40 minutes, you probably might want to stay away from this. Holy crap! I just realized that's probably like the worst sell ever. It's not that nothing happens. Stuff does happen, but it's not what you might be expecting. It's not like there's a monster hiding in the bush trying to like eat people or anything like that. It's a bit stranger than that, and I like that, but I get that a lot of people probably won't and would prefer a much more straightforward thing hiding in the bush trying to eat people. But you know what? Pretty much everybody has a Netflix account right now thanks to this pandemic. So if anything I said about this movie sort of piqued your interest, then feel free to have a look. The worst that could happen is you'll waste your very, very precious unlimited time on this earth. Yeah, thanks for listening.